Welcome to this week's edition of Business Insight. I'm glad you could join us tonight. Now, mobile technology has got onto a whole new level in the recent past, and the music industry has not been left behind in all these developments. Now, innovation that enables musicians, or rather music artists, to get an alternative earning from their sales of their products they make is just one of such innovations. In studio today, I'm joined by the brains behind one of such innovations, who is Martin Nelsen, the founder of Mdundo.com. Welcome to the studios.
Thank you.
Well, now bring us up to speed. What is Mdundo.com?
Mdundo is a music service. It's a website, as you're just mentioning, Mdundo.com, where you can go and listen, download music from your favorite artists from across Africa.
Now, they say innovation, or rather necessity, is the mother of innovation. What necessitated this innovation of Mdundo.com for the artists?
Well, I think the music industry has been suffering for many years, but I think also actually not only artists lacking a way of distributing their content, I think more importantly, people actually missing a way of accessing music. I think especially in the music industry, we are a little bit good at forgetting the actual fans, the one who actually wants to listen to the music. So our kind of objective is to make it easy for anyone who fancy listening to a good African song, to give them a place to go and access that music.
You mentioned African music.
Yes.
So this is specifically for the African artists, like the name says, Mdundo. This is a Swahili name.
Yeah, well, we're not specifically for Africa. Our focus is to make music available for Africans. We are starting here in Kenya. We have good progress in some of the neighboring countries as well. So our focus is actually to give you access to music. I think giving you access to African music is where there's a big, in my opinion, a big immediate need, because it's harder to access. Whereas if you want to access international music, it's easier for you because there are already other music services that allows you to do that. So we're not limited. We do have some international acts on our platform. We do have music from across the continent, but we started with local African music.
So how has the journey been since you started? It's been a couple of years now since you got to Kenya.
Yes.
How has this journey been since then?
It's been roughly three years since we started the service. It's been a good journey. I think the music industry is an extremely tough industry, but I think that's also what get me and the team up in the morning. There's a hard nut to crack, and we want to crack it. I believe that people listen to music. Well, everyone really listens to music more or less every day. There's got to be some value in this. There's got to be a way for us to generate revenue, both for us as a service, but also for the musicians, the producers, and the different people involved in the process of creating the music.
So now, how does me as a music artist now get to benefit from the app?
Well, I think artists benefit in different ways depending on at which stage they are at. Many artists just join us because they want their music to get out there. They want a transparent platform where they can easily follow how many downloads do they have. So we have an online dashboard for them. But they also earn royalties. So 50% of everything that we as a service make and revenue, we split back to the musicians. So there's a fair revenue split, a transparent way for artists to understand, how's my music performing? Is my music doing well, and so on. And as we have actually been expanding geographically, we also see that many artists join us because they might want to grow their fan base in other countries. So many of the guys who join us in Uganda, well, maybe they want to grow their music into Kenya, or Kenya, they might want to go into Tanzania. And so we see an increasing need for this because artists becomes bigger than their country. They want to get out there to the rest of Africa, and there is not many services or many solutions for musicians that are kind of unified across the continent.
There's been a lot of issues or critics talk about the Kenyan music compared to the other Eastern African country music. How has the Kenyan music been performing on this platform?
I think it performs great. I think music from every country really performs great. I'm not a creative critic, so I don't really take a particular stand in terms of one song and another song.
another one.
But I think in generally they're doing well. And I also think, well, particularly Kenyans, they're also good at criticizing themselves. I think the Kenyan music is actually performing quite well. When I go to Tanzania and Uganda, the music is being played heavily, and guys actually really enjoy it. And many people look up to the Kenyan music industry. So it's not perfect. I think there's many areas which a lot of very great people in Kenya are trying to improve the music industry, but it's way ahead of many of the other countries.
Compared to the other countries in
Definitely.
the East African or wherever, East African continent, if I should say that.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about the music copyright, which has been a big issue.
Yes.
I beg your pardon. How do you deal with this music copyright? If I just put my music there, how do you know that this was really originally Victoria's song?
Yes. So we deal with music copyright the same ways that SoundCloud and YouTube does it. And that basically, we look at them as some of the market leaders in this industry. And that basically allows anyone to upload his or her song to our platform. We then look at it and say, okay, is this your song? Is it not your song? If it's not your song, then it's being pulled down. The reason why we do it this way is that it allows everyone to get on board, upload their music, and start making money on it. So that way it makes it quite easy for any artist to get on board. But in generally, how do we deal with copyright? Basically, we don't, because we don't take control and we don't take ownership in your music. So many music services and many musicians are very scared of being cheated or not getting what belongs to them. And the way we deal with that is that we actually just don't take any rights. So that means if you as a musician put your music on our platform,
you
and
just pick it.
we are basically just a tool. We are just the middleman. So if you as an artist don't want your music on our platform, then you are free to take it down, or you are free to put it on another platform if you want to. So we basically said we need to be a flexible platform so that any artist can kind of do what fits his or her needs, rather than trying to own and take control of all this music, which many, some other players have tried to do, and in some instances you end up making a lot of promises to a lot of musicians that you can't really keep.
You mentioned that you can pull the music down, but so at what point would you notice that this music is not actually originally the artist's song? Well,
so there's different ways of doing it. Right now we are actually scanning most of it, so we'll see as it being uploaded, is this actually belongs to you. There's obviously some cases where it can be hard. Let's say it's a remix, where originally it depends on which agreements that you actually have with the other rights owners. So it becomes a little bit complicated, but generally we also believe in the faith of the general public. So that means if you use our service and you find a song that is not actually owned by that person, there's an option for you to report that song and we'll take it down. Because it is a kind of a universe where there's not a lot of infrastructure, there's not a lot of formal structures. And I think also that's what makes us thrive and us really believe that there's value in the music industry, because it's a chaotic marketplace. And if we can go in and try and find make a kind of a solution where the fans are winning, and people are getting to access the music for free. They're going to listen to all this music from our wide catalog across Africa, and the artists are happy with what they're getting. Well, then we are really solving a lot of problems for a lot of people, and we are part of setting a structure for the industry.
It's like bridging the gap.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about the royalties that they earn.
Yes.
First of all, even before we go to that, how does this musician get the music on your platform? Do I bring my CD to you?
Not at all. If you're a musician, you just go to our website, mdundo.com, and then you sign up from there. You can create your profile, you can change your profile, and everything is online. We work with more than 40,000 musicians from across the continent. We have artists from more than 30 different African countries. So if you were to work with them one by one, it would be impossible. So it all works online, it's all automatic. And you as an artist keep being in control of the content that is on your on our platform.
Yeah, most of the musicians complain, or rather, even with the government ways of getting royalties, they complain that probably we are shortchanged and all that. How do you make sure that this person actually gets the money that he really deserves? We
do that by not having any middlemen. So I think it's fairly straightforward. if you have to work through a particular middleman or have to go through a particular unity in order to get your music on our service, if you have to go through a certain bureaucratic process, that's when there becomes opportunists who see how can I kind of benefit from this system, so that actually the right owner doesn't. So we just kind of eliminate all that and say, well, sign up online. You are the one who has direct contact to us. We pay you directly. And that way we handle that. Oh, yeah. Now, there are these musicians who don't have a song that they did it on their own. Maybe I collaborated with Samuel, I collaborated with Anne. How do you deal with this? If this artist A puts the song on the website and it was a collaboration between like 3 or 4 musicians, how do you deal with this? Well, so as a kind of rule of thumb, we only deal with one owner of a recording. So if you have done a song several people, generally what will happen is you need to make an agreement between those people on how is this song being distributed. But we don't actually go into that. We basically deal with one person who uploads the song to our service. And if anyone else says that this is not correct, then we take it down. So there is no in between. Either it's you are all in agreement, this song is being distributed, or it's not being distributed because you can't agree between each other. Okay. Now let's talk about the royalties now. How much have you, like the highest amount you've given to the artists, and probably if you can mention the people. Yes, so I can't mention specific artists, but what I can do is I can say what we are genuinely doing. So last year we paid a total of around $50,000 to the music industry. That is not necessarily a lot, or it might not sound like a lot. We also have a lot of musicians who are sharing that. So it's roughly 5 million shillings in a year. But what I think it is it's a huge improvement from where they were having before. So what is important to understand is that no one is paying for the music. Basically, the key about our model is not really where the royalties are coming from. The key about our model is that people who are on the streets downloading music illegally, we are now making money from them. So basically, if the industry keeps going on about why are people not paying for music, how are we going to make money, why are people not doing as they're supposed to do, how do we kill piracy? And in my opinion, that's really where, I wouldn't say that people go wrong, but you need to find a model that accommodates for the market space. And so all the royalties that we are paying out is actually for people who have downloaded the music free of charge, who might not have the skills or the capability or the funds to go in and pay for the music. And so that is actually where I see the key. So how kind of our business model works is a bit like a radio station. You listen to radio for free. But radio makes money from advertisers and pays a percentage back to the artists. Our share is 50%. Some, like most radio, pay a lot less than that because it's a radio license. But our license is 50%. So basically that allows you as a customer to browse through our music, listen to a variety of different songs, and you don't have to worry about any payment walls or do I have to pay for this music or is the artist getting something out of it? We then resell all this inventory, all this advertisement to some clients, and that's how the artist makes money. Marty, you've interacted with many of these musicians. I know millions and thousands of them. What is the gap that, or rather, what is this common thing that keeps coming from them when it comes to promoting their music and getting something out of it? What's this big issue that probably you might be knowing from them? Yes, well, I think there's several elements. One of them is music industry is tough, for sure. That's the case in Kenya. That's the case in any other country you can mention. With that? The music industry is tough. If you look at it, hundreds and millions of people around the world want to be musicians. How many of them actually end up making a living of it? Very few. It's really hard. So I think if you are a musician, and this is also something that's your interest and your hobby and something you enjoy doing, that is when you have a chance of actually at some point turning it into something more professional. But it has to be driven by for the right motivation and for the right reasons. In terms of marketing of the music, one challenge that is here, specifically here, is that a lot of there's only a number of actually established sources of listening to music. So if you look at the number of radio stations and TV stations for Kenya, it's not that many compared to, for example, in the West. And that means that you might not necessarily, if you don't fit into the mainstream media's kind of platforms of what music they want to play, then you will not get airtime.
Exactly.
And so there's a challenge with, okay, a radio station only have 24 hours a day. They cannot play all the music.
All the music in the day, and they keep repeating.
Exactly. And if they play music that is a bit more risky, so upcoming artists or hits that hasn't yet gone through, well, then the radio station has the challenge of, maybe I'll lose my viewership, and then maybe I'll lose my advertisers.
Yeah.
So they are also forced to play all the time what is popular.
Okay.
And so we try to accommodate that, because on our platform we do not have to choose which artists are being promoted. That basically means that if you go to the app and you like rock music and you want to listen to East African rock music, then you can do that at the same time as I can listen to all the pop music and all the more mainstream music that's being played more on the local radio stations. And both artists, both the one I'm listening to and the one you're listening to, are making the equal amount
of money.
So it basically means that platforms like ours, where the person is in choice, the customer is in choice of his own discovery, of his own kind of, I want to listen to this kind of music, I'm into that kind of music, that kind of allows more artists to get a chunk of the pie. Whereas on the mainstream media, it's limited to a certain amount of people, because you cannot play everyone in a span of 24 hours.
Exactly, yeah. And now let's talk about these artists who are just coming up. Probably they have a nice voice and they feel they can do this. Do you probably get yourself in a situation where you have to advise or guide someone?
We do a lot kind of for the ecosystem. I think for us, we are not managing artists. I'm not an artist manager. I'm not. I like building a platform that kind of breaches between the fans and the artists. But I'm not necessarily an expert on how to be an artist and how to make it as an artist.
And you can't even sing yourself.
No, I can't. I can play a few instruments, but I can't sing. But if you but we can look at our general trends, and then we share those learnings to all our artists. So we have email lists, we have different ways of communicating these things. So we normally do share learnings if we see an artist has made it in one way or another. And one thing that I genuinely see is that if you want to make it as an artist, it's very important to try and build a loyal kind of fan base of only a few hundred people. That's actually the hardest step. So what we see is many people try and go from being an unknown to the public artist and think, okay, if I get a major radio station to play my music, then I'll make it.
And I'll be
and that's actually not really how it works. So my major advice is that it actually works the other way around. You need to kind of build a loyal fan base that is big enough for the radio stations to say, well, we want to play your music because then you are helping us with your audience of fan base to come and listen to my radio station. That's really how it works. And even if you were to get your song played on mainstream radio, chances are that after 1, 2, 3 weeks, people have forgotten about you anyway.
There'll be another hit.
Exactly. So it's not sustainable, and it's not a good way to build a business as an artist. The best way to do it is to find out if I can even find 10 people who enjoy my music or 100 people who enjoy my music. That's actually the hardest part. After 100, they'll tell their friends, and they will tell their friends, and they will tell their friends. So start small, focus on the people around you. That would be my best advice.
Now, having said that, where do you see, where's the future of the music industry, particularly in Kenya? Let's talk about Kenya, where you are right now.
Well, I think it's very hard to kind of predict about the future. I think that over the last year, I've seen an increasing kind of growth in especially niche parts of the industry, which I'm very happy about. So it comes back to what I said earlier about that people don't necessarily have to listen to the same songs and the same artists over and over again. So where beforehand most of our downloads and streams were for the top 10 artists, now it's maybe for the top 100 artists. So we're seeing a growth in the variety of music that people are willing to listen to. And so I think that's a very good development. In many places in the world, you can become, you can make a professional, like only rock musician or only reggae musician, for example. Whereas here, that's a bit harder. If you don't make music that is for everyone, then you have a hard time breaking through.
Yeah, because people have different
tastes. But here we are starting to actually see that the guys can actually build something around it that actually makes sense in a smaller niche that kind of accommodates for this kind of music, this kind of venue, this kind of DJ. And so I think and I also hope that as we are moving forward, we'll see more and more of industries within the industry, which basically focuses on different styles, different lifestyles, because that's what music is all about. It's about identifying yourself in something else.
Now let's talk about your plans for the future. I saw you had Mdundo Awards before you've done that.
Yes.
What are the other ways that you're using to motivate these people, these young artists who are coming up with songs? Because I saw, just aside from the Mdundo Award that I saw.
Yeah, well, I think it's not really about motivating the artists. I want to kind of take it back again and say it's about motivating the customers and the fans. It's about motivating everyone who's watching this right now to be like, you know what, I should go in and listen to this music. I should go in and discover and find out, maybe I like more Kenyan musicians than I thought I did. Maybe there are more than those 5 guys that I just remember because they've been playing in the Matatu when I go back and forth. Maybe there are more guys I want to listen to. I think it's wrong to start focusing on, like in any other industry you would do the same. You wouldn't start focusing on the supplier. You start focusing on the customer. But in the music industry, for some reason, we're always focusing on the supplier. And that's just not the right way of looking at the industry. You need to look at the customer and say, what can we do to get more customers to start consuming our products? And then you can get the suppliers on board in different ways.
Exactly.
So motivating the supplier in this case is not hard. Getting artists, like it's like a supplier in any other business. If you want a supplier to to supply you, then you need to pay for their product or give them a value proposition that makes sense. But for that value proposition to make sense, you need to have a customer. And so I think that's where we try to focus and where we try to kind of stand out is to say, if I can have, right now there's 1.5 million people using my service every month. It's one of the biggest leading music services in Africa. If you can have that base and 10 double it or 20 double it and get more and more guys to come and use an illegal way of listening to music rather than going to all the illegal services or rip the music off YouTube or whatever methods people have to get hold of the music, when you get them into that, then it's kind of fairly easy to get the suppliers on board. Yeah.
Even as we finish, Martin, you've been going to different countries and doing this job.
Yes.
What are the international best practices that the Kenyan music or the musicians can actually learn from where you've been?
Well, I think that's a very subjective kind of thing. Some people would say one way is the right way and other way is the right way. I think for the industry as a whole, what we are creating is the right way, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't do it.
Definitely.
I think the kind of the best case is that right now you have 40 million people listening to music illegally and you have less than 5 million people listening to it legally. If we can get 40 million to do it legally, then there's a business. Rather than trying to milk the people who actually are currently listening to them, actually paying for the music. So it's about creating something that's relevant for everyone. And even if the value you're making is smaller, so let's say you can make 20 shillings per download, but you can only make 1 shilling per download. If you can get everyone to pay 1 shilling, then it's still better than actually trying to have the higher price that is only relevant for a small market. And so I think that's the international kind of best case. But kind of to be a bit more, to look at it from a bit more broader perspective, there are artists who have successfully done it the other way around. So they have said, well, you can go on my website and you can download the music for any price you want. So we've had even international artists who have said you can buy it for 100 shillings or 1,000 shillings, or you can just put whatever price you want and take my music. And in that way actually managed to maximize the hype around their new record, the hype around their new album. So I think it's really still about trial and error. And what we have to remember is internationally the music industry has not figured it out yet. We are not the only ones here who are trying to struggle and trying to figure out how to do it. Obviously they are way ahead in some countries, but we are also learning, and we are in a good position where we can look and say, well, what's working in the different places in the world, and let us take some from here, some from there, and create a model that fits our fans, our customers, and the East African market.
Wow, thank you so much. That has been Martin Nelsen, the founder of Mdundo.com, a very innovative technology for the music artists in the country and in the world at large. Thank you so much for watching Business Insight. I hope we can do this again next week, same time. I'm Victoria Munga. From me and my guest, it's good night and God bless.